Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to things Americans and Brits don't understand about each other. It's from this guy, I can't actually remember his name. He has multiple channels, I think. This one's called Brain Blaze. He's got multiple channels, he does loads of different topics. And yeah, I mean, I just saw this video pop up, it's a few days old. And he seems like someone who just knows a lot about like very unique situations, whether it be like political stuff or just general like facts or bits of information about specific people or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna see throughout this video and like to see what he has to say, and I guess the comparisons between the two nationalities and people from either side and how they understand their own stuff and what they think of others. I guess we're gonna check this out and see, because I don't really know what to expect other than that. But yeah, let's jump into this. Hopefully going to enjoy. Let's check this video out.
There is nothing sexier to an American than a British accent. Americans and British have a lot of stereotypes to one another. We sure do, Kevin, who wrote today's episode. Kevin is American. He's from Massachusetts. Almost got it wrong there for a second, but I know where you're from, Kevin. And I, of course, am British. Could you tell by the way that I speak? Many of these are fairly accurate, at least from their own point of view. For example, British see Americans as being extremely religious, perhaps bordering on the fanatical. Indeed we do. I mean, we know not all Americans are religious. We know that just there's more of you who are religious and you take it a lot more seriously than we do. Oh, while most Americans would tell you this isn't at all the case, compared to the British, we really are. Kevin is, again, Kevin's American, I'm British. That's what's going on. I know it can be confusing, especially if you're new here. And if you're new here, welcome. The United States is far more religious than both the UK and Europe in general. According to a 2018 study from the Pew Research Center, about 55% of Americans say they pray on a daily basis, compared to only 6% of British.
Oh wow.
I'm really legitimately shocked.
I'm mad that I'm not mad, sorry. I'm shocked that it's so low. I mean, I don't pray, but I didn't realize it'd be 6%. To 50% as well.
That still 6% of British people pray on a daily basis?
Yeah, on a daily basis, actually, maybe. But still, I'm shocked by that. 6% would be, like, what? Every 60 people from 1,000 people. So 600 from 10,000. 60,000 from a million. Have I done the maths right? I think I've just confused myself. I think I've just got, yeah, 60,000, no, 6,000, 60,000 from a million. That is mad. That's not many people.
That's kind of incredible.
600,000 from 100 million people. I think I've done the maths right. No, sorry, it'd be 6 million from 100 million. So then 3 million from 50, and England's like 55 million. So like what, 3.2 million people still pray in England? Or something like that? Oh, damn. I mean, it's pretty low.
I realize it was so high. I'm legitimately shocked that our number, the American number, was so high, as secularism has been on the rise, but as far as I can tell, they are a well-respected and apolitical organization. So while many Americans would disagree that we're all fervently religious, the numbers show that we clearly are when compared to Britain. Yeah, dudes, more than half of Americans pray on a daily basis. Holy shit. Another stereotype that is seemingly accurate is that, to the British, calling someone a C word, which we can't say on YouTube, for the video would get age restricted. But it's, you know, I'll see you next Tuesday, won't I? Yes! Is the same thing as saying hello. I'm pretty sure Simon's not even allowed to say that word here on American-owned YouTube, and in high school I was taught that the word...
I think the word in the US is like one of the worst words you can use, isn't it?
Oh, is the worst thing you could possibly call a girl. The person who informed me of this was a female friend of mine who had just been called that to her face, so there was sure to be an uncomfortable bus ride home from our jazz band competition. While the British still consider it a swear word, it is used much more liberally than it is here in America. Brits will even use it affectionately, like referring to a friend as a cheeky C word. Yeah, my nan would always be like, "Ah, Simon, you cheeky."
Go to Australia, it's even different there. It's even more like commercially used, if that's what you can say.
It's a joke. That's definitely a joke. It's still a pretty heavy swear word. It's still used relatively sparingly by most people, but compared to how rare the word is used here in the United States, they may as well be using it to say hello. So if I like roll up to an American like, "All right, you old," then it's not going to be taken favorably, I assume. Well noted, Kevin. preventing me from getting beaten the shit out of. Thank you. But while those stereotypes may be somewhat accurate in a relativistic sort of way, many stereotypes you have about each other are purely misconceptions. Obviously, Simon won't have ever fallen for any of these misconceptions about Americans since he's so well-travelled and erudite, and our American audience is far too intelligent and attractive to be taken in by these misunderstandings about the British. But it still should be good for a laugh. Yes, just with those disclaimers out of the way. All Americans own and are obsessed with guns.
Oh, here we go.
One thing that I did find out about America was that I thought, like, anyone who likes guns or, like, has a gun, NRA is for them. And then I found out NRA just represents, like, a really small number of people who are really into guns. Like, there are people who's like, yeah, I own a gun, like, to protect my house and shit. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then there are people who be like, no. We should be able to have Uzis. We should be able to dual wield Uzis in Walmart if we wanted to. It's like, no. No, you shouldn't. Do I think you should be allowed guns? Sure, why not? Do I think you should be able to dual wield Uzis in a Walmart? No. No, I do not. As a country, America loves guns. That's an undeniable fact. Nearly 50% of all civilian-owned firearms in the entire world are in the US. God
Holy shit.
damn, America. And our country has more civilian-owned guns than we have people, with 120.48 guns for every 100 people. Logically, that means that every person should have a gun.
Wait, does he live in the... I think he might live in the US because he said our people. He said our people? He said our or something. I think he lives in the US then.
About 20% of people selected the dual-wielding mastery. And sure, that's one way the math could work out, but it's not even close to accurate. Only about a third of Americans are gun owners, a number that has remained extremely consistent since at least the early 1970s, maybe longer. It was also consistently true that less than half of Americans lived in a household where someone owned a gun, though in 2023 that number jumped a little bit to 52%. So how do we make sense of these numbers? Only a third of Americans own a gun, yet we have 20% more guns than we have people. I mean, the answer's obvious.
A few people own a lot of the guns.
The people who own guns own lots of guns. There's going to be 99 people who it's like, no, they don't have any guns. And then the one guy will be like, no, I have 120 guns. I have 120 guns. And that wouldn't be insane. I mean, how many guns does a reasonable person need? Having a hunting rifle and a pistol for protection doesn't sound too unreasonable, or if you hunt birds as well as small game, then maybe a rifle and a shotgun. Yeah, I mean, but the same can be said for, anything. People collect things. Like, maybe someone's just really interested in guns.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, some people are really interested in cars. And indeed, over half of all gun owners in the United States only have one or two guns. What inflates those numbers and makes it look like the entire country is gun crazy are the unreasonable people. And somewhat frighteningly, though sadly not surprisingly, there are a whole lot of unreasonable people. Like I said, over half of all American gun owners have either one or two guns, but 8% of gun owners have 10 or more. There is no not insane reason for a person to own 10 or more guns. I don't think it's insane, though, to collect guns. To be like, oh, I'm just really interested in guns. You don't even necessarily have to have ammunition for all of the guns. Just be like, I like the engineering and stuff like that. I think that's fine. Maybe watches is a good example. No one needs more than one watch. Arguably, people don't need watches at all, but people might enjoy them. I'm sure that statement just pissed off any doomsday preppers in the comment section, but let's be real here. In the event of a global apocalypse, you don't need a massive cache of guns and ammo. All a prepper would really need is one gun and one bullet. That may sound callous, but if the whole world were to fall to shit, I think the survivors would be better off without the type of person who is stockpiling dozens of AR-15s for just such an occasion. Still, I suppose I haven't done enough to dispel the misconception that Americans are all gun nuts yet, so at this point I should point out that a lot of Americans aren't actually big fans of the Second Amendment. According to polling from 2018, just under 50% of Americans wanted to amend the Second Amendment to make it easier to pass gun control laws, and 20% wanted to repeal the Second Amendment entirely. 1 in 5 people...
Has the Second Amendment changed over time? Since it was created, has it been adapted over time? I don't really know how it works. I mean, I know obviously it's just the written rules, I guess. But has it sort of evolved over time, or is it sort of stayed the same? Because it's been around for it's got to be 200 and something years, hasn't it? So I do wonder what sort of changed over the time. What was the initial Second Amendment when it was first written? And if it has changed, what changed and what sort of evolved and stuff?
People don't want to get rid of the Second Amendment? That seems really high. I know 20% isn't even close to a majority, but there are conspiracy theories that have had wider support than that. But when gun owners don't even outnumber those who want to repeal the Second Amendment 2 to 1, I think it's safe to say that guns and gun culture aren't quite as popular and ubiquitous in the United States as many Brits believe. All British have the same accent.
No.
Oh my god. No. The number of accents in the UK is insane. Didn't some linguist say?
I actually find it so baffling. Like, the UK is such a small place, and you can literally drive from Manchester to Liverpool, and they're not very far apart, and you'll have a completely different accent. Like, it's like they're from a different country, and they're so close to each other. And then London itself has many accents, although they're not very diverse. So, yeah, no, they are actually got like Cockney accents and like just different accents throughout. And the more north you go, I feel like it gets even more like funky, you know. But no, I find it so baffling how the UK, or sorry, how England especially, because I mean there's probably different Scottish accents, but I couldn't really determine. Now let's just say Britain actually, because they do still have different accents to what I'm used to. But I couldn't really decipher the difference between different Scottish accents as well, or different Welsh accents even, which sounds mental. But I can sort of tell the difference, obviously, from accents within the country that I'm from, England. I couldn't say the difference between certain accents throughout Wales, if that makes any sense. But it is wild, honestly. I find it so fascinating how there's so many different accents in such a small area.
Say that if he hears an accent, he can tell where someone's from within, 10 miles or something. I was even listening to a podcast the other day, or a YouTube channel or something. I don't even remember what it was. But the guy was like, oh yeah, and I was born in Maidstone. And I'm like, me too. It's very same part of the country as me. I didn't grow up there, but I was born there. So I assume the same thing happened to this guy, because I'm like, wow, you have the same accent as me, down to like the fucking T. And it was because he was from exactly the same part of the country as me. When it comes to foreign accents, there is nothing sexier to an American than a British accent. You're welcome, internet. Except for maybe an Australian accent.
No.
Steady.
No.
Though, honestly, most Americans can't even tell the difference between them. But that brings us to a wild misconception that Americans have about the British, that they all have the same accent. On the one hand, I can almost understand this. Despite having the word great in its name, it's tiny as if you hop in your car in the morning, you can drive literally anywhere in Great Britain in the same day. I know Kevin finds this shocking, but to me, this is just entirely normal. You can absolutely do that. The entirety of Great Britain is slightly smaller than Oregon, a comparison I've been led to believe a number of Brits take exceptional offence to, despite it being factually accurate. I don't find it offensive. Is the UK, Great Britain, England small? Yes. Very. It's not offensive. So yes, it's not that crazy to imagine that everyone in Britain might have the same accent when you consider that it would only be the 12th largest state in the US if the US were to annex it. And God willing, someday we will. Steady, Kevin, steady. Turnabout's fair play.
It's
after
right,
all.
it's
Admittedly,
fucking him
some
up.
Americans recognise that there are two distinct British accents. There's the normal proper accent, and then there's the Cockney British spoken by impoverished chimney sweeps. That's right, there are two accents. There are two of them. Proper and Cockney. Of course, the accent that Americans think of as being the normal way all British people speak is received pronunciation. Undoubtedly, Simon, we recognise how ridiculous it is to think that the average Brit speaks with this accent.
Butter.
Butter. I love this video.
Listen, butter.
Butter.
That's it.
This. While our American audience is
mate.
wondering what the hell it even means, received pronunciation is the British equivalent of General American. It's an accent used by broadcasters, not really anymore, used to be the case. But it is not representative of the accent of the rest of the population. It's generally cited that only 3% of people in Britain use received pronunciation, though that study is from the 1970s. More recent studies.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gone down then, and it's probably the older generation as well that probably still speak like that. It's definitely. I feel like it's definitely getting lower and lower.
Only put it at about 5%, so it's
Oh, it's gone up.
still hardly common. And seriously, think about it for a second. Great Britain isn't even a single country. It's made up of England, Scotland, and Wales. Scottish and Welsh accents are obviously very different from what Americans think of as a British accent.
Come on, mate, put my weight. Wait, I can't put my weight in the roof. It's dead fun. I can't hold on to it. What am I meant to do? Oh, you know, I've been wanting for 5 minutes.
But even within England, there are a myriad of different accents. There are Lancashire and Yorkshire accents into North, the Geordie accent in Newcastle, Scouse in Liverpool, and so on. This is way sweeping. All of these have sub-accents within them. To make this more educational for the American audience, perhaps I'm a weird pip and demonstrate these various accents for us. You got no fucking shot, Kevin. Dream on. There are regional dialects that accompany each of these accents as well, but the accents themselves are still unique, largely based on swapping out various vowel sounds. And yet again, that shouldn't be surprising, since the United States is full of different accents and dialects. For example, US Southern accents feature elongated vowels, resulting in slower speech, and the dialect is full of animal-based idioms like full as a tick. My dogs are barking. What the fuck does that mean? Or happier than a pig in shit?
I do like that one.
Compare that to Boston, where people talk extremely fast, the letter R doesn't exist, and every story includes dunks and at least 3 people named Sully or Fitzy.
Have already been put in place in New Hampshire.
Anyway, there are lots of British accents, and pretty much nobody speaks with the accent that Americans think of as the standard British accent, except Simon. I don't really also have that accent.
He does seem very well spoken, though. He's got a very... He definitely seems like the type that will pronounce things very correctly.
Not quite. I'm like... yeah, it's not quite. This is the thing. There's so many accents. Americans are extremely blunt and direct.
What?
One of my first experiences with how British people think of Americans.
I mean, before I did these videos, would I have thought that? I would have just thought Americans are loud. Blunt and direct. I don't really know. I mean, maybe other people think that, to be honest. But
came from Fawlty Towers, starring John Cleese and his first wife, Connie Booth. Their show stars Cleese as... Whoa! Wait, they were married in real life? Holy shit! The show stars Cleese as a hotel owner named Basil Fawlty. Basil?! And in one of the episodes, an American businessman checks into the hotel with his wife and kid. It was a stereotypical portrayal of Americans as wealthy and driven entirely by capitalism, but more importantly, it showed the Americans as loud, blunt, direct, and downright rude.
And that you are the British tourist board answer to Donald Duck.
When I first saw this show, I thought it was a pretty accurate portrayal of that particular kind of American douchebag, but I didn't realize that's how the British think of all Americans, not necessarily the rude part, although it can often come off that way to people who are much more reserved, which Americans mistakenly assume all British people are. It's not a mistake. We are. But rather the part about Americans being blunt and direct. That is far from universal, though. Typically, you will find that it is true of people in the Northeast, particularly places like Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. We are notoriously and somewhat gleefully assholes, and we don't have time for your so of course we're going to be blunt and direct. People from Massachusetts. Kevin?
Oh, that's why he's saying we are, because Kevin's wrote it from it. It was confusing me. Okay, I've got it.
So proud of this that we refer to ourselves as massholes, and people in Philly are such jerks that during an Eagles game back in 1968, fans booed Santa Claus and pelted him with snowballs.
They're just passionate. A little too passionate.
But not all Americans are such loudmouth assholes like us, and really most of them aren't. In college, I dated a girl from the Midwest, where people are not nearly as direct. Whenever we tried a new restaurant or a TV show or whatever, if I asked her what she thought of it, and her answer was, "It was interesting," I eventually learned that this phrase meant that this was a horrible experience, and if you ever subject me to that again, I'll cut your fucking dick off.
With a butter knife, you son of a bitch! I'll tie you to a chair first and gag you with a goddamn daikon radish!
Jesus Christ. Though some of that meaning could be potentially discerned from the facial expression and tone of voice with which "that was interesting" was said, it was far from direct. That was interesting. It's like, I'm never watching this again. Similarly, Republican Congressman Patrick McHenry of North Carolina made headlines this week for saying of a fellow Republican, "bless his heart." I'm not going to get into the political reasons why it was said, especially because it will no longer be relevant by the time this episode airs, but that Michael McHenry said this was a really big deal. And yet, that is about the least direct thing I can think of anyone to say to express displeasure. The phrase, "bless your heart," certainly sounds like a good thing, especially since the phrase is most common among Southerners in the Bible Belt. If a deeply Christian person says, "bless your heart," that sounds like they're wishing you health and joyous times and such. Wait, that's really what I thought it means. Does it not mean that?
Oh, my sweet summer child.
While sometimes that may be the case, the sincere version of the phrase is usually more an expression of sympathy rather than general well wishes. Of course, the fact that there's
like you're sort of pitying someone.
both a sincere and insincere version of this phrase should make it clear that Americans often aren't as direct as many Brits want to believe, especially because it's not always clear which way a person means the phrase. In the context of Representative McHenry, however, the meaning was clear to those familiar with the phrase. Although the words he said said, well, bless his heart, what he actually meant was, this is the stupid, most ignorant thing I've ever heard, and this brain-dead mother should resign in shame. Wow. Bless his heart. Or something along those lines, at least. Basically, bless his heart is a stand-in for anything that would be too rude or profane to say to someone directly. This misunderstanding on the directness of people likely comes from media. It's hard to get an exact figure on this, but I'd wager New York is the most popular setting for American movies and TV shows. Even if it's not number one, it's definitely up there with the other top locations also being major cities like that. So if all anyone ever saw of the United States was snapshots of New York, it'd be pretty easy to assume that all of America is like that. Realistically, though, the majority of people aren't anywhere near as direct as the British assume. The British have horrible teeth.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we kind of do. Our teeth are not...
I swear there's literally like stats to say that we actually have very good teeth here overall. Not to be that guy, but I'm pretty sure there's something out there. Quick, let me find it. Nah, I'll probably go through it, but... Like, we get free healthcare as kids. So until you're 18 years old, you get free dental healthcare. So surely that's like a thing that's quite rare. I don't even know if you'd get that in like a lot of European countries, although I could be wrong. I don't know. But until you're 18, you get free dental care for whatever you need. So I mean, surely that affects it to a degree as well.
Not so hot. I had my teeth fixed, so they're nice now.
Oh.
But yeah, a lot of people just have. I mean, they're not.
His teeth actually look like, usually when you have teeth fixed, they look very fake. His actually look like they fit and they don't look extremely like white, for example, or like too big for his mouth. Like sometimes people get like dentures, whatever they're called, and it just makes their teeth look. It just doesn't fit, you know. But let's see what he says. I mean, he's probably the people that this is aimed at, depending on how bad his teeth actually were.
Bad. We brush them and we don't have many fillings and stuff. Like, our oral hygiene, I feel, is good, but we have like wonky ass teeth because I just feel we don't fix them as much. Maybe that's changing a bit, but we don't.
I think it is changing. I mean, I never had them because my teeth was pretty good. I mean, I've sort of a little bit. They're probably not 100% perfect, but I'd say like 95% in terms of how good they could be without braces, right? But again, they're free in the UK until you're 18. You can get braces for free. So it would make no sense as to why you wouldn't get them as a kid if you need them.
Fix them to get the perfect alignment as much as Americans do. Like my teeth, people are like, it's fine. You don't need braces, it's fine, it's close enough. And then I was like, no, I'd like my teeth to look a little bit better. So I had them fixed. But I think for the most part, we just take good care of our teeth, but we don't necessarily make them look perfect. There are two jokes about the British that are seemingly as old as time. One is that they're colonizers and they will come and rape and pillage your land so they can fill their museums with all their cool shit. And the other is that they have horrifically f***ed up teeth. And while both of these statements are absolutely based in fact, it turns out that neither of them is really true anymore. There definitely was a point in time, and not even that long ago, when Brits had extremely f***ed up teeth. And that's assuming they had any teeth at all, studies from
Oh god, this does not help us. What's going on in this picture?
1970s showed the third of British people had zero natural teeth. F***ing hell. What? And that 90% of children were suffering from tooth decay by the age of 12. Oh my
God.
lordy lord. Admittedly, that no natural teeth number includes the elderly population, but those are still some pretty terrifying numbers. No natural teeth. That's crazy. Americans, on the other hand, are all known for having beautiful Hollywood smiles. On an episode of Decoding the Unknown, with the help of
Say it! Say my name!
Julian, we used a green screen to make it appear as if I was recording from Simon's office. Upon seeing this video for the first time, Simon had seemingly no reaction at all to me being in his office. Instead, his first comment was, "Kevin, you have very nice teeth. You got Americans' teeth." It's true. Like, if it was a British person, I'd just be like, that's nice teeth. But when it's an American, you're like, look at those shiny chompers. They're just like gleaming. But if Simon's immediate reaction to seeing my face for the first time was to comment on my American teeth, then obviously it must still be true that British people have horrible teeth, right? Well, not so much, actually. Those somewhat frightening numbers from earlier have come down quite a bit. Compare that with numbers from a few years ago, and the number of Brits with no natural teeth decreased from about a third to only 5%. That's still one in every 20 people's rolling around with no teeth.
What the
None.
fuck?
compared to about 7% in the US. Holy shit, it's even worse in America.
Oh.
And according to, that's because in America, they'll just knock your teeth out and put some brand new in there. And according to a 2009 study from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the average British 12-year-old has 0.7 missing or filled teeth, while the average 12-year-old in America has 1.3 missing or filled teeth.
There we go.
I didn't have my first filling until I was in my mid-30s.
I've not had a filling yet. I've not actually had a filling in my life yet, but I'm only 23, so I mean, I think that's probably the norm at this age.
Like, just brush your teeth. It's not that hard.
I know.
As it turns out, while Americans have spent my entire life mocking British teeth because of what was true back in the 70s, the British have spent their time improving dental practices to the point that their teeth are actually healthier than American teeth. So why has this incorrect stereotype persisted if their teeth are actually better than ours now? It's the wonky thing. One possible reason is pettiness. England is America's oldest enemy, so we have to make fun of them for something. A better answer, though, is emphasis in the United States on elective cosmetic dental procedures starting at a young age. For all the Americans watching, just think about it for a moment. Did you have braces as a kid? How many people did you know growing up that had braces? Now, before I hit you with the numbers, Simon, I want to know your answer to these questions as well. From the numbers I can find, it looks like maybe 15 to 20% of your peers growing up would have had orthodontic work done, and almost entirely because of functional problems. No, I would say that's definitely low. And it wasn't just because of functional problems. If people had janky teeth, they'd get their teeth fixed. All of I got 3 sisters. They all had braces because their teeth were worse than mine. And yeah, a lot of my peers just had their teeth fixed. Compare that to the United States, where right now, roughly 80% of teenagers are currently undergoing some sort of orthodontic treatment, be it braces, retainers, or Invisalign. I did Invisalign. It's fucking incredible.
What actually? I don't even really know what an Invisalign is. I always hear about it, and I don't really know what it is.
Like, it's really, like, when I was a kid, you had the, like, braces, you'd have these big metal wires. I didn't want that shit as an adult, so I just had Invisalign. And you just wear these retainers. I wore them for, like, 2 years. I went through, like, 45 of those fuckers. Like, changing them every 2 weeks. And, yeah, it was pretty fucking easy. It's enormously expensive, but it was easy. So basically, every single child in the US whose parents either can afford it or have a great dental plan get their teeth adjusted to give them that perfect straight smile that is required of all Americans. The vast majority of this is for purely cosmetic reasons, and it gives Americans a false sense of what healthy teeth are supposed to look like. We also do all sorts of other cosmetic procedures like teeth whitening. Almost 15% of Americans get their teeth whitened.
God, that's too white. I mean, I would like whiter teeth for sure, but there's a point where it's just overbearing. Like, this is literally like, this could blind a man. Say you got someone's car lights going into their teeth.
All sorts of other cosmetic procedures like teeth whitening.
That's too much. But some people want it, man. Do what you want to do, but I would never want them that white. But I would definitely whiten my teeth a bit, honestly.
Almost 15% of Americans get their teeth whitened, compared to only 3% of Brits. And as I said, this all gives Americans a false idea of what healthy teeth look like. It's assumed in the US that if your teeth are perfectly straight and unnaturally white, then they must be healthy, even if you have a dozen fake teeth and 20 fillings. But in Britain, more natural teeth are considered to have character, and people historically have not felt the need to shy away from having somewhat crooked teeth that were just a regular shade of clean, rather than demanding their teeth shine brighter than.
I like the fact that it's not just all about how it necessarily looks. Although I say this, say you're dating someone, you're gonna want them to have good teeth. I mean, let's be real. There's definitely a point where it's a bit like say they just don't brush their teeth, for example. You can tell, then that's gonna be a problem anyway. I'll be real, but I definitely think the sort of idea of healthy teeth difference, like the difference is, I don't mind it. You know, if the UK is a bit less focused on whitening teeth, then it is what it is. But I also do think that's a thing that's growing too. Like in the next 10, 20 years, it will probably be a lot more similar to the US as well. But it is what it is.
And the sun.
Whatever makes you happy at the end of the day.
American media has been a major influence over there, and a number of people seeking elective procedures to perfect their Hollywood smile has been dramatically increasing. I guess I fell victim to that. I'm pleased. I think it was totally worthwhile. I'm very happy to have like nice teeth now. Over the past 50 years, British teeth have gone from generally pretty bad to healthier than American teeth, but not as pretty. Thanks to American influences, maybe British teeth will become just as pretty and unhealthy as ours as they increase their emphasis on vanity. But hey, even if that happens, at least their teeth won't be in as bad a shape as they were in the 70s. The royal family.
Okay, we all love them?
Unfortunately, I'm running out of time, so I can't go into as much depth on this one as I'd like, but the British royal family is something that neither Americans nor the British understand about each other. Americans assume that the British are all in love with the royal family, while Brits can't figure out why the fuck Americans are so obsessed with them. This is pretty bang on. Like, I don't give a shit about the royal family. Americans that, you know, in the news, you're like, what? Why do you care? I don't give a shit. Lots of people I know just don't give a shit. Unfortunately, I don't want to answer that because I don't get why so many Americans care about the royals either. We staged a revolution to free ourselves from the monarchy, only to gossip about them far more than the average British person ever thinks about their existence. But whether you're American or British, there's one thing that 450,300,355 out of 450,300,356 of us can agree on: we all prefer Queen Elizabeth to King Charles. Wait, who's the one who prefers King Charles? Oh, it's King Charles himself, right? Because it's the 415s the population's put together. Use your brain, whistle boy. And that's the end of today's episode.
There we go. Yeah, this is a fun video, to be fair. Someone being more pro-gun than his American writer is quite funny. If I ever get a dental insurance, I'm going to ask a dentist if they can put my wisdom teeth back in and remove my sweet tooth. I'm pretty sure such a mistake was made. Insurance, I just pay out of pocket. Sorry, man. Fucking hell. Fair enough. Not one asked that, but okay. The two British accents are fact: Boy Simon and Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins. As the chimney sweep. My dogs are barking means my feet are killing me. That's a good one. My dogs, get your dogs out. Like, that's like your feet. I like that one. That's very good. That's actually one that I would like to pick up. The pig and shit one. Happier than a pig in shit or whatever. That's definitely a saying that's somewhat used in the UK. Or whatever the saying. It's something like that. Most people who own guns will never reply to a survey. Okay. I don't know, to be fair. Everyone knows Americans only have two accents. Howdy partner and hey, I'm walking here. Howdy partner. Howdy partner is like rent free in my head. Whenever I think of like US accents and maybe more southern, I always just think of howdy partner. I don't know why. It's just rent free in my head. I don't know where it comes from. Last time I came this fast, I became a dad. Okay, well, on that note, you know what? I think I'm done reading the comments. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. Hopefully this didn't trigger you too much or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.